On behalf of the League of Women Voters of the Oneonta area, welcome to the candidates debate for the City of Oneonta Mayor's race. My name is Leanne Hirabayashi, and I will be your moderator tonight. Joining me in running tonight's debate are League members Steve Lomner to keep track of time, Alice Collins and Paul Conway to gather and organize email questions from the audience, Tom Polyblank to provide tech support as needed. So I'm gonna just share my screen to go over a few logistics with you. So for those of you in our audience, if you wish to ask questions, email them to lwvoneonta@gmail.com. This email will be visible throughout most of the debate on one of the screens. Please indicate to which candidates you are addressing your question, but if it's both candidates, just write both, or we'll assume that it is for both of them. In the process of reviewing questions, we will be combining similar questions, so you may hear a slightly reworded version of your question. Also, we may not be able to get to everyone's questions and apologize in advance for that. Thanks for your understanding. In addition to audience questions, the candidates will be responding to questions from Robert Cairns, managing editor from the Daily Star. For those of you in the audience who are familiar with the Zoom platform, we have intentionally disabled Q&A and chat. And if you're having technical issues or you know someone who is, please send an email to lwvoneontatech@gmail.com. This email address will also be visible on one of the screens throughout the debate for your reference. Finally, this debate is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be made available on the Oneonta League's website in the next day or so. So, one moment, please. I'm just going to check something. This meeting has been planned and is conducted by the League of Women Voters for the Oneonta area. And just one moment. Yeah. By the League of Women Voters for the Oneonta area with assistance from the Cooperstown League. Over the last century, the League of Women Voters has fought for election protection and equal access to the ballot, all while maintaining our commitment to nonpartisanship and fostering an informed electorate. Yes, the League is a nonpartisan political organization. We are nonpartisan in that we do not support or oppose political parties or candidates, and we are political in that we believe democracy is not a spectator sport and that all citizens need to educate themselves and participate in our democracy. We're not engaged in organizing and hosting candidates debates like these. League members study issues and policies. We come to member agreement and then advocate based on those decisions. We have retained the name of League of Women Voters because of our suffragist roots, but for well over 50 years, we have welcomed all genders in our membership. The Oneonta Area League was founded in 1965, and we hope you will consider joining us. Go to lwvoneonta.org to find out more. Before we begin the debate, there's one important message that the League would like to impart to you. So one moment while I share my screen again. And that is vote. You are here for the debate, so we know you're engaged. Here are the important dates to keep in mind. Early voting starts this coming Saturday, October 23, and continues through Sunday, October 31. Early voting locations in this county are the Foothills Performing Arts Center here in Oneonta and the County Board of Elections outside of Cooperstown. The hours do vary from one day to another, so check oscegocounty.com for details to make the most of your early voting experience. November 1 is the last day to apply in person for an absentee ballot. And November 2 is election day, with polls open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. It's also the last day to postmark your absentee ballot and last day to deliver the absentee ballot in person at the Board of Elections. And then finally, make sure you look on both sides of your ballot so that you can vote on the 5 statewide ballot proposals. And for more information about voting, go to the Oneonta League website at lwvoneonta.org. Now I'm going to give you a brief background on the office of the mayor. As described in the City of Oneonta Charter, the mayor is the City of Oneonta's chief elected officer and is the only officer elected by the entire city electorate. The mayor serves as the head of city government for all official and ceremonial purposes and presides at all meetings of the Common Council, serving as its chair. As the Common Council's chair, the mayor is an integral part of setting legislative priorities, sets the agenda for Common Council meetings, leads the Common Council in strategic planning, and guides and advises the city administrator in fulfilling Common Council priorities and instructions. The term of the office of the mayor shall be 4 years with no term limits being established by the charter. The term begins January 1 of the year after the election. To be eligible to serve as mayor, the elected officer shall be a resident of the city for a continuous period of 1 year prior to taking office and be a registered voter. Stop sharing my screen. And tonight we have with us the 2 candidates for the office of City of Oneonta Mayor. And I'm going to just spotlight these 2 in a moment. Give me 1 second here. I'll get this right. Oh, interesting. All right. Mark and Len, if you can show your video. Okay. Thank you. And there we have Mark. So the candidates in alphabetical order by last name are Len Carson and Mark Dernick. So the ground rules for this evening have been reviewed in advance by our candidates. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for an opening statement, and the order of which was determined by a draw. Candidates may choose not to use all 3 minutes. Now the timekeeper will hold up a sign on his screen, and let me spotlight our timekeeper for a second here. All right, timekeeper. All right. So the timekeeper will hold up a sign on the screen when 1 minute, and show that, 30 seconds, 15 seconds remain, and then a stop sign when time is up. Thank you. And at the after opening statements have been made, questions for the candidates will be taken from the audience and also posed by the media representative. At the end of the question period, candidates will be able to make a brief 90-second closing statement. Again, candidates may choose not to use all 90 seconds if they prefer not to. We are scheduled to conclude at 8 p.m., though we may go shorter or longer depending on the number of questions that we have. So from a draw, Mark Dernick will deliver the opening statement first with Len Carson following, and then we'll do the reverse order for the closing statement. So now the opening statement from Mark.
I'm so grateful to have this opportunity and a chance to share my vision with the community. So thank you to the League of Women Voters, to our moderator, panelists, all the community members who provided questions, and everyone watching. I've been a businessman, a creative talent for hire, and a community advocate for years. And just 2 short years ago, I ran for and won election as councilman of the 8th Ward, the mighty 8th. Going in, I had grand plans for what we would do in the ward, but within 3 months, they were all derailed by the pandemic. as a lot of you know, because of the challenges that we faced, I jumped into my leadership role with both feet. I developed and co-chaired the Survive Then Thrive effort to help keep our shops and restaurants in business and set ourselves up to succeed, even as other cities might be struggling. In the wake of the COVID-19 spike at the college, I created and co-chaired the Town Gown Task Force as a way to positively engage the community and the students in collaboration for the common good. Coming out of the pandemic, we are poised rather to do great things. We have an amazing opportunity, but the window to act won't be open long. If we can take advantage of these next few years, there's so much that we can do. I have a vision. I lay awake at night just thinking of all of the changes, all the improvements that we can make that will affect everybody in the community. Make it so much better to live here and make it so much more likely we'll be able to attract new residents, young families, nimble businesses. If I'm elected mayor, that's how you should judge my success in 4 years. This is my focus. These are my priorities. Did we change the course for Oneonta? Did we make it a more interesting, entertaining, and vibrant place to live? Did we improve and revitalize our business sector, downtown and throughout the city? Did we bring 1,000 new employed residents into the community? Did we give young people more reason to stay? And did we figure out a way to support both young families and our seniors? Did our taxes come down? Did we change the relationship of the community and City Hall? Did we solve the issue of housing? And did we come together as a community in support and respect of one another? I'm running for mayor because I have a vision that will make all of those things happen. As I'm fond of saying, I am all in. And the creative solutions that I can bring, the vision I can share, and the good that I can do as mayor has me excited to get started. And I really appreciate this opportunity and the opportunity to serve my community as mayor. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Mark. And now the opening statement from Len.
Well, good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters. I also want to thank Leanne and Robert being our moderators. And I'd also like to thank the 87 and growing participants that want to be engaged in the City of the Hills mayoral campaign debate. I find this opportunity as an honor, and I'm very appreciative of all the different folks that I got an opportunity to talk to in the last 5 months as I've been going out door-to-door campaigning. I look at tonight as an opportunity to interview, a job interview, if you will, in front of all of you tonight. And so if you don't know who I am, I just wanted to take a few minutes and talk about who I was, or who I am, sorry. I am a lifelong Otsego County resident. I grew up in Lawrence. I served in the military from 83 to 87 active duty and was honorably discharged from the United States Air Force. I was fortunate enough to be accepted into the Oneonta Fire Department, which I had a 26-year career serving the city of Oneonta residents in multiple different position capacities. And my final career as I was getting ready to retire, I was a fire captain for my last 8 years. I found that to be a great honor. During that time period, I've been associated with veteran organizations as the American Legion Post 259 right here in Oneonta, New York. And I have served as the commander there for 8 years. I've also been a county legislator for the 13th district, which is the 5th and 6th ward to the city of Oneonta. And I did that after I retired in 2015. So I did that in 2016 to 2018. And that gave me an opportunity to see and understand how the city of Oneonta fits within the Otsego County government. It also gave me an opportunity to develop relationships with Otsego County legislatures, the treasurer, and other county staff. In 2020, as Mark said, we started our council career, if you will, as 5th Ward and 8th Ward representatives. But if you ever had some luck, starting off with COVID, March 13th, I think that was actually Friday the 13th, was a heck of a way of starting our public service as council members working together. But since then, we've both served in different roles. I have served as chairman of finance and human resource. I've also been asked by and accepted the responsibility as airport manager. And before that, I was also the airport liaison. And I also served with Mark in a proud committee for the Community Advisory Board. And I felt that it was an honor to be on also. And I look forward to answering questions not only from our two moderators, but also from the general public. Again, thank you all. It looks like we're still hanging around 87 plus the moderators.
And thank you very much, Len. And now we're going to move to the questions from the audience. And I'm just going to spotlight that question there. So hold on a second. Yeah, so if you have not done so already, please use this email address, lwvoneonta@gmail.com, to send in your questions. And candidates will be limited to answers not to exceed 90 seconds. Candidates may decline to answer a question if they so choose. And if there is a question that is to a particular candidate and the other candidate wishes to answer the question, they just need to let me know and gain the floor. Again, that would be for no longer than 90 seconds. If either candidate wishes to follow up on their initial response, they may do so for 45 seconds, and that's at my discretion. Only questions pertaining to the issues will be allowed. And although controversy and differing opinions are welcome, no personal or abusive questions or comments are permitted. These individuals have put themselves before the public by running for office, and that alone is a service that must be respected. The emailed questions are being reviewed and collated, so it's possible your question may be slightly reworded if it is similar to somebody else's. We are focusing laser-like on asking questions of the candidate. So if you send a statement without a question, we will not read it. Should you wish to express your opinion on a subject with one of the candidates, we ask that you do so by contacting them directly. And we will get to as many questions as possible as time allows. Now, the order for the response to the first question was determined by a separate draw. And we have Mark first, followed by Len. And then after that, the order of the responses will just switch back and forth. So I'm going to start with my questions. Give me one moment, I will. Okay, so my first question will be from the audience. And again, we are starting with Mark. You both were deeply involved in the later stages of the recently completed city review of our police department. What were your personal key takeaways from this year-long effort? And what positive changes can we expect to see in our police department? So we'll start with Mark.
Well, thank you. And that's a great question. As Len mentioned, we both had the honor of serving on a committee that we titled CABRIC, the Community Advisory Board Review Committee. And one of the things that I take a lot of satisfaction from as the chair of that group is that we had 4 council members engaged in conversation that took, gosh, about 6 months, meeting every couple of weeks for a couple of hours. It was really detailed and in-depth conversations that we had on all of the recommendations that were submitted. And every single one of our resolutions and recommendations made to council were unanimous across the board. Everybody agreed that that was what needed to be presented to council. In terms of what I am most excited about in what was now handed to council and is this close to being enacted is the Community Police Board. That's really what's at the heart of making certain that we have a system in place in which both the community and the police will benefit from the communication, benefit from the ability to spot and and have conversation around issues perceived or real, and identify new forward-thinking ways for the police and mental health services to be connective in servicing the community.
Thank you, Mark. Len?
First off, I want to thank Katie Botner, our city personnel director. She did a lot of the legwork for the committee. But I also want to thank, when he, in that position, he was the acting police chief. He is now, thankfully, our police chief, Chris Witzenberg. Chris did a phenomenal job. I believe some people, if you were put in that position as the acting police chief, might have been abrasive to change, but Chris is a intelligent and articulates his points extremely well, a police officer, and now our police chief. I'm thankful for him leading our police force, which is a tremendous group of men and women. I also want to thank the committee. We did work very hard on it. As Mark said, it was several months, usually every single Tuesday, added to all of the other committees that we serve on. But I think it's a document that will take us into the future for many, many years. I was also excited that Chris Witzenberg created a panel that has experts within the industry for mental health. That's something that's never been done before, and we're now introducing mental health providers, professionals into the Oneonta Police on active scenes, and I think this is a great opportunity to see where we can go. We've also made extremely transparent the website about the city police department, and I think that's important, transparency in government to its people. So I look forward to the document being dynamic.
Thank you very much, Len. Mark, did you want to follow up at all?
Yes, if you don't mind, sure. I just basically, I don't disagree with Len on a single point that he made there. And I want to also have this opportunity to single out was acting chief, now chief of police, Chris Witzenberg, who has really, from my mind's eye, kind of identified a way for the city to move across problem solving in any number of different ways across different departments. And that is to reach outside of the structure of city government. He formed something called a Community Solutions Panel that incorporates any number of folks that can actually make things happen within the context of their organizations. And it's forward thinking. I couldn't appreciate Chris any more than I do. He's just he's phenomenal.
Thank you, Mark. Len, did you want to do a follow-up at all?
Sure. Thank you, Leanne. I'd also like to recognize the community members that put an extremely large amount of time into creating the original CAB, or a Community Advisory Board report. It was filled with suggestions, and I think it gave the elected officials an opportunity to look at the community's thoughts. If we weren't out campaigning, we would have never understood their point of view. So from Daniel Dreyer and others, I just think it's an opportunity that they took advantage of, and I'm glad that they did. Folks like Bill Shue down in the 6th Ward, he came and expressed his concerns. So I think it gave the community an opportunity to be heard. And I'm sure we'll answer questions later tonight, but that is very important, the transparency between public and its government.
Thank you very much. Let's take a question from Bob. You want to ask a question of our candidates?
Good evening, gentlemen, and thanks for participating in this event tonight. My question, and Len touched on it just a bit, how important is government transparency to you, and what would you do to bring your attitude on that throughout your administration?
Well, again, Robert, thank you very much for being here tonight. I appreciate your experience in our community, and I look forward to communicating with you later tonight about all this through the questions. Transparency is extremely important to me. On my email signature for the city of Oneonta as council member, it says right there, working on transparency between government and its people. As mayor of the city of Oneonta, I would have coffee hour at least once a month. So folks that I guess if they want to bitch and complain or bring solutions. And you know, later tonight, I'm going to thank some of the people that I was fortunate enough to be introduced to as I was out campaigning. Transparency was one of the major words that they talked to me about, and they gave their thoughts on what does that look like? How does government do that better? I also want to acknowledge that a positive coming out of COVID is just this. I might refer to this as Wonka vision, but this gives us an opportunity to, you know, still socialize and interchange our ideas. And Zoom or this video platform, I'm very happy that we now have that at government, so that people have an opportunity to watch all of our committee, all of our commission, and all of our boards, along with the Common Council meetings when they want to do it. It's finally at a platform that's convenient for the public, and there's nothing to be hidden. Now on record forever and ever, somewhere in the YouTube category or catalog, and I think this is a great opportunity for us to move forward.
Mark?
Yes, thank you. So two things. I took the lead in ensuring that at Common Council, we were set up when we were finally allowed back into chambers and still able to provide the level of video and archiving, frankly, of meetings that really wound up being something that really transformed the interaction of people with their government, where you might have had a dozen or 20 people in the gallery to watch a council meeting or a commission meeting. We regularly have in the double and high double and low triple digits of attendees. And again, it's archived. So that's something that the technology that we live with right now, we need to take and bring to bear across all aspects of our government. How do we communicate? We are living in an age of communication. For us not to communicate is unpardonable. The other thing is, frankly, I'm looking to have a transformative 4 years, and that's going to mean that people are going to need to be engaged in collaborating, and that means that they need to know what one another are thinking, and that means that we need to ratchet up communication as it's never been before. It's going to be integral to the success of our moving forward as a community. And so communication, as Len says, it's as important as anything we can do.
Thank you. Bob, did you have a follow-up at all to that question, or shall I move on to another question?
I do not. Please move on.
Okay, thank you. So here's a question from the audience. For Oneonta to prosper, we need to attract new residents. Should Oneonta's future include integrating mixed income housing and larger multi-unit housing within our existing neighborhoods? And if not, what do you propose as an alternative? And it looks like we're back to Mark as the answering that question first.
Thank you. So I've been clear that my goal is to bring 1,000 new people into our community, and people who are employed, people who have jobs into our community as a game changer. You need to have affordable housing in order to succeed in a goal like that. We have a situation currently where we don't have adequate affordable housing for the people who live here. So we're talking about ratcheting that up for a larger population that we're marketing to. We need to have the same commitment, which I think across the board in the city we do, to bringing in any number of different options. I don't think it's a binary choice, one thing or another. I think the playing field is as open as it can be, as it should be, frankly, to every idea that we can incorporate in the solution. The key, though, is that nothing gets done unless the neighborhood is engaged in the conversation. I don't care what the project is. I don't care how worthy the project might be. If the neighborhood is not engaged in the conversation, engaged in the planning, and we are not involved in the mitigation of whatever issues that they may have, that's a non-starter for me.
Lynn?
Leanne, before my time starts, could you reread that question for me, please?
Yes, of course. For Oneonta to prosper, we need to attract new residents. Should Oneonta's future include integrating mixed income housing and large multi-unit housing within our existing neighborhoods? If not, what do you propose as an alternative?
When I ran for council in 2019, I lost track of how many people actually talked to me about housing. We do have a housing issue here in the city of Oneonta. I know that we have more than 80 vacant homes. I understand vacant is a relative term. We have vacant homes. We have some parcels that we can develop on. This is all very exciting opportunity. I can tell you, as I've been running for several months, my mayoral campaign going door to door, housing is still an issue. It's still being brought up. We have folks that are opening up their door to me and they're showing what they're renting their apartment for. And I'm hopeful later I'll be able to address how to get young couples and people off what I call the hamster wheel, because they're not able to save enough money. The average house in the city of Oneonta is $165,000. So for a young person or young couple to save enough, like that 20%, right, that's $30,000 that they need to save. If they're making a minimum wage, how can they do that? So I've reached out to different banking institutes right here in Oneonta, and there's already existing programs that are in place, and I look forward to implementing them as the mayor. There's already a relationship between these institutions and the city of Oneonta. So again, I look forward to helping people get off what I call the hamster wheel and move into their own home. You know, a lot of people get pride from home ownership. You might not think that when the toilet backs up or the sink doesn't drain as it should, but exciting.
So I guess in answer to that question, I think I just want to follow up with both of you. I didn't get a sense of what you thought about this proposal of integrating mixed income housing and larger multi-unit housing within existing neighborhoods. I'm not sure I heard an answer specifically to that question. And if you didn't, did you have an alternative to propose? And let me go back to Mark on that one.
Sure. So the Lofts on Dietz is a great example of housing that's going to accommodate moderate incomes by way of income tax returns that they qualify, and quote unquote artist housing as a niche that, in terms of the city's sense of its marketing, they had been inclined to bring into the community. I think, frankly, I believe I was the lone voice in opposition to its being built where it got built, but that battle is a battle I lost, in the battle I've moved on from, and I'm cheering for the success of the Lofts on Dietz, because we're going to be looking at an integration of, 80 families. That was a quick 45 seconds.
Len, can you respond to that question? Do you need it to be repeated, or?
No, more directly.
Okay.
I've already asked that question with Stephen Yearley, our code enforcement officer. Can we take a look at our zoning for increasing the occupancy within our neighborhoods? Right now on the books, we have a code that says you cannot have more than 3 unrelated people residing in one residence. This kind of stifles the ability for people to have additional income if they want to have multiple units. We could look at accessory dwelling units, but I believe it's back to code. So Mark brings up the Lofts. Lofts is a great example of how we need middle income housing. There's 64 units. There's been more than 400 requests for those 64 units. So that tells you we have a dramatic need for middle income housing.
Thank you. Okay. Another housing question, a slightly different take on it, hopefully bring out more of your thoughts on Oneonta's housing issues. So what are your more specific plans to address Oneonta's housing issues, such as the absentee landlords of both residential and commercial properties, the surfeit of overpriced student housing, summer baseball housing, and the dearth of affordable housing for families and professionals, both rental properties and affordable single family homes for purchase. I know you talked about it a little bit, but maybe you can give a little more specific plans related to that. So we'll start with Lynn on that one.
So I'm currently working with a young local developer who is going to be purchasing the Chestnut Street School. This is a win-win for the city of Oneonta. This is an individual that has a proven track record. Even at a young age, he has a proven track record. It's also going to put a property that's never been on the tax rolls, which we desperately need. There's 47% of us paying for 100% of everything. And one of my initiatives is to get that delta back to 60. That will help bring in a lot of other programs, quality of life programs, but more importantly, we need more middle income and professional housing. If we can create tax abatements and incentives for developers, whether local or we're recruiting them in here, then we can schedule them out for 8 years, and then they can get a return on their investment and allow them to develop even more within the city of Oneonta. So I'm excited about working with the existing developers here in Otsego County and Oneonta specifically, and also looking at developing relationships with other developers that we want to bring into Oneonta. Besides multiple dwelling, we also need single family. So we have those 80 homes that are vacant. Are there opportunities? I think there are plenty of opportunities. I just saw one again the other day on Cedar Street where we could get that converted back into a single family, or better yet, a multiple dwelling unit to bring back up and revitalize the neighborhood.
And Mark.
Yeah, and Len's right, and I agree with him. The idea of encouraging young entrepreneurs, or any age entrepreneur for that matter, to be looking at our second and third floors or our empty buildings that will easily, with some ingenuity and a couple of dollars, be convertible to housing is a terrific thing. I'm not so sure about tax abatements, frankly. I think that the more that we engage in a healthy business district, and the more success we have in that, the more likely we're going to bring entrepreneurs to that. But most specifically, to answer your question, I think build and renovate. I think we need to re-examine our relationship with the land bank. I think we need to move our derelict, unsafe structures to auction and rehabilitation. And I think we do need to take a serious look at zoning. Also need to engage the landlords, 100% right. They should be a part of the conversation. Their business model has in a great way changed the dynamic of how much housing costs. We also need to look better. We need the landlords to treat their houses and their tenants with respect. Code enforcement is going to be a big part of that. And we need to make the model of being an absentee landlord much less attractive, so that we are working with people who are of our community, in our community, care about our community. It's going to make it a lot easier for us to grow our community.
Thank you. Okay, on to a different question, not housing. If a pandemic were to hit again, would you as mayor require places of worship to close via the Common Council voting on a city mandate, or would you leave it up to the clergy and laity of the organization to decide how a place of worship should function in that situation? And we'll start with Mark.
Yeah, so I'm not certain that houses of worship would actually be in the purview of the mayor. However, I can say that the mayor's job, primary job for the mayor, is to keep everyone in the community safe. And if that's safe from pandemic, or if that's safe from natural disaster, whatever the concern that needs to be addressed might be, that is the mayor's job. And so if the science dictates mask mandates, I will advocate for a mask mandate. If the science indicates that we should be building a new dam someplace within the context of the city because we suddenly developed, a flood zone that we hadn't, known about before, then I'll advocate for a dam. We'll do what needs to get done in order to keep our city safe. I don't see a dam coming in our future, but please Lord, we'll get on the other side of COVID and equally hard to believe would be the idea of another mask mandate.
Thank you. Len?
Leanne, the question was house of worship. If another pandemic came, what would we do with the house of worship?
Yes. So the question was, if a pandemic were to hit again, would you as mayor require places of worship to close via the Common Council voting on a city mandate, or would you leave it up to the clergy and laity of the organization to decide how a place of worship should function in that situation?
Right. So our city government has control over public spaces. A house of worship is not a public space. We would not have any regulatory ability over a house of worship. But more importantly, we would want to make sure that all of our community members are following the safe guidelines set down by the different state and federal organizations and agencies. And I think that that was done by this common council. This council, though separated after 2.5 months, I believe again, it was middle of March, if I remember correctly, we were separated, and then we started Zooming sometime in April. And it made it very difficult, but the cohesiveness of the members of this council have been very, very apparent. And I'm thankful for that. And I look forward to working with them in the future as your mayor and working together, governing the city of Oneonta. Again, I don't see where the city of Oneonta government would have any right to rule over the house of worship.
Okay, thank you. And Bob, would you like to ask, do you have another question for the candidate?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry, who am I addressing this to?
You are starting with Len.
Okay. How would you describe your management style, and how would you apply that to the job of mayor?
My management style is more of teamwork based on my history. As a United States Air Force veteran, we were taught teamwork. That carried on through when I did my 26 years with the City of Oneonta Fire Department. Whether I was the subordinate or I was the leader, we believe in team. Team accomplishes more than an individual. I believe Mark can attest to the fact that I still have that mentality of teamwork. When we worked together for CAB, I think Mark saw that I was more than willing to work with him and the other committee members. And on other initiatives in finance and human resource, even as chair, I'm still looking at those committee members as a team, and I ask for input all the time. Again, today we just finished up our airport meeting at 4 o'clock. We started our meeting, we finished up I think a little before 5. And again, I'm the liaison, but I'm also the airport manager. And I specifically asked each one of the airport commissioners if they had anything that was a thought or concern that they needed to share. So I try to provide an open forum. And again, that's the reason why I'm going to be offering coffee with the mayor once a month to come and have that transparency and the ability to come and talk. In concept, I'll have with the council members. I want to have as much open door policy with the council members and city staff, working alongside our city administrator, Greg Mattice.
Thank you, Len. And Mark?
So management is something that gives me joy. My style of management, and I've been really successful, frankly, in managing people to some grand successes, things that we've received national recognition within the context of our various employments at those times. We have, my sense of management is to look around and bring the people together who have an opinion, who want to make a difference, and have those people essentially take ownership of our direction. And that has been a huge huge success. For me, in the context of the city and management, it's a case of knowing that we have an extremely skilled staff working at City Hall, and they are going to be more inclined to be motivated than to be managed. And in terms of the community, bringing community members together and engaging them on the solution of any number of different problems and collaboration, that's my sense of management, and that's where I feel like we will have our success.
Len, did you want to follow up?
I do, Leanne.
Okay.
Thank you very much for that opportunity. Robert, I also would like to add that with the city charter, following our city charter that the community voted on and wants implemented, following that charter, we've hired a city administrator. City administrator is Greg Mattice. I think he does a phenomenal job. In his interview, he knocked it out of the park, understanding the communication between city staff and elected officials. So the thought process of managing the city staff is taken away by having the city administrator. I will be focusing my attention on the teamwork, the relationships with the council members and other community stakeholders in creating a more vibrant Oneonta. And that's where my focus is going to be.
Thank you, Len. Mark, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I do. And I think sometimes the best thing you can do is give somebody an example. And so I want to just use the example of the Survive Then Thrive effort, which was half a dozen people who were pulled together to address the concerns of the pandemic as it hit us. And when all was said and done, I think we had 200 people engaged in half a dozen committees that pushed the ball not only forward and saved, I think, arguably a lot of businesses in the community, but also have given us a step up on a lot of communities in our marketing that I expect we'll be talking about a little bit more. But that all came of people all being part of the same team. And I'm, like I said, sometimes it's better to just give you a specific.
Thank you, Mark. So we're actually about, in theory, we're about 10 minutes till 8. So we would probably be closing pretty soon if we wanted to finish at 8, but we've kind of barely scratched the surface of the questions. So I'm wondering if you two would be willing to continue past 8 o'clock and to continue answering questions. Good. Thank you very much. Okay. So kind of in terms of management, we talked about management style, and it's been some time since Oneonta has had a mayor who owns a local private business. Now, how will you deal with potential conflicts of interest between your official municipal responsibilities and your personal business interests? And I believe we start with Mark on that one.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's really only one solution to that, and that's that I have to, I have to let my business go. It breaks my heart. We've done some amazing things. I'm very proud of Sweet Home Productions. Very proud of the people who work there too. And so I'm kind of on a couple month glide path to get to a place where my business may be essentially split into two, and the service end of it is able to be continued on through the efforts of such a great young staff, local staff that I have working there now. And then hopefully the digital and publishing side will have some appeal to somebody, because we've done such a nice job with that. And who knows, maybe I'll have retirement income. But I can't keep it. I'd love to. It's a good little company, but I can't keep it.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And Len?
Thank you, Leanne. I think a great example for me is last night at the common council meeting. One of the motions that was on our agenda was with Pyramid Business Services, who does the IT work for the city of Oneonta. We did a little bit of advertising for them in 2021. I abstained from the vote. I believe, again, in transparency to the public. So if there's any conflict, but generally we do not do any work with the city. We've given quite a bit of free work. I think the city hired us back in 2019 I think it was, to advertise for police officers. But again, DC Marketing is our company. Deline actually owns 51% of it. And we actually do more work for the community free than we do for charging with regards to our not-for-profits. We've provided free advertising for more than 64 organizations. So as for a conflict of interest, our business, our DC Marketing, has pretty much a separate lane than what I do here with the city of Oneonta, whether a council member or with myself as the mayor. Again, it would be very important for me to have that distinction. If there was any issue, then I would bring it to the public.
Thank you, Len. What do you see as the priority opportunities for the city to expand its collaborations with the town of Oneonta and or the county? And what would be your first steps toward bringing them about? And we will start with Len.
Great question. We have a couple different opportunities. The county office building, which is on the other side of the street from City Hall, or right just down the street from City Hall, they have empty space within that, and I'd like to talk with the county legislators about creating a communal business space for entrepreneurs. Hopefully this is an opportunity that we can attract some of our students from Parkwood College and SUNY Oneonta. I had meetings with both representatives, student body representatives, unofficial student body, I should say that, from both formal education facilities, and I look forward to developing that. But I also have talked to quite a few local business owners that appreciate that. And I think that's an opportunity for us to create that communal business space. And I think I'll concede my thought until rebuttal.
And Mark.
So there are any number of different ways that we can connect with the county and with the town. One of the things that we did, going back to my business, I guess, but that we did in the context of the pandemic and the unemployment that was forced on so many folks and the businesses that needed to scale back because of that. PPP, the payroll protection plan, played a large part for a lot of business, a large part for our business. What we decided to do was to create a support.sego page website that wound up, in fact, becoming so popular as a resource for the community. There was no revenue stream involved, and it was an absolute gift. I wound up working with the county and all of the various service agencies and so forth, where they all collaborated in providing content for this as it was best for the public. For the public good. And that's really where we want to go, I think, with any collaboration with city or town is, will this make the public is this better for the public if we do this, or is this, something that somebody might like, but it doesn't have a resounding and obvious impact. And so collaboration for the public good. And as I said, I suppose that's the precedent.
Len, did you want to do a follow-up?
Yes, I do. Thank you. So the other half of that question was, what would we do with the town of Oneonta? I have a long relationship with the town of Oneonta, both in government and personal relationship. Randy Mowers is going to make a fabulous town supervisor. I've already taken the opportunity to talk with Randy. I believe there's a lot of opportunity for us to do more shared services. That was one of the initiatives handed down by Governor Cuomo a few years ago. I definitely want to look for more ways of doing shared services with the town of Oneonta. And again, that opportunity with the county is creating a communal business. These are two initiatives that we can move forward with both the town and the county without a whole lot of cost to the tax.
Thank you, Len. Mark, did you want to have a follow-up?
I do. Yes, so I'm with you, Len. Shared services makes a ton of sense, and obvious. It's been on people's radar for a while. It'll be on my radar as well. In terms of shared spaces for business development, Absolutely. But one of the things that I want to talk about quickly in my 30 seconds left is the idea of working for the benefit of our marketing by connecting to the tourism infrastructure of the county and even of the town, as we have baseball and even Airbnb, usage. And so we have actually a database that needs to be shared so that we can get to people who've already fallen in love, which is what you do when you see us, with our community, so that we can bring them back here. So that's one more place we can collaborate.
Thank you. Now, within your four-year term as mayor, what developments can we expect to see within the rail yards? And we'll start with Mark on that one.
Yeah, so the rail yards, the rail yards is great. I mean, it's it's just an amazing opportunity for the community. It's so untouched. It's the heart of Oneonta. When you look at a map, it's like literally the heart of Oneonta. Green energy jobs. Right now, there is a it's IOXIS and Harvard College and Custom Electronics and Otsego now are all working together to create, what are they calling it? I know, Len, you have it right off the top of your head. It's a, sorry, that's what I get for making notes. Shouldn't make notes. Anyway, an innovation center, an acceleration center. Better not to look at the notes. And what they are already strategizing to do is bring green energy jobs in, jobs that are, light industry and or absolutely technology oriented. So there's no footprint to speak of except a positive one. In the meantime, we have all of these trails. Len actually hiked a couple with me, trails that we can convert within the wetlands all around. And it's just such a wonderful opportunity for both recreation and for development that has a very green footprint.
Thank you, Mark. Len, again, it was what developments can we expect to see within the rail yards within your 4-year term as mayor?
Development, economic development. We need it dramatically to turn our community around. We can't keep asking our taxpayers to pay more. The rail yards gives us that opportunity. It is the largest parcel in not only the city of Oneonta, but Otsego County that is ready to be developed. It has its own rail. Right nearby, we have the interstate. The city of Oneonta is poised for great economic development. I actually just spoke with Jody Zarveski, our CEO of Otsego Now. I've had a long relationship with Jody. He's got quite a few things in the hopper. I expect that we're going to have significant movement in 22 and 23. I think the rail yards is an opportunity not only for green energy or geothermal, but also air source, and the way that we provide that opportunity to either local developers or developers that we recruit in there. And to Megan and Jody, they're doing an excellent job in moving those initiatives forward. They do have several projects. The board also has some agreement with them, and they're moving several projects ahead. It would be helpful if Otsego County legislators would fund some more money to Otsego Now so that they could do a little bit more. We actually need at least one more personnel in that office. So the rail yards, again, in the 5th Ward, I've never stopped trying to move that thing forward. I love time. I can tell you that I donate my time just okay.
Okay, thank you.
Worth a shot.
No, you're doing fine. Let's go to a question from Bob.
There are some big pieces of the downtown revitalization initiative that have not yet come to fruition 5 years after the grant was given. What could we expect to see in terms of things like the transportation hub come about during your first 4 years in office?
And that's me.
This question starts with Len, I believe.
It does. Thank you,
Ken.
Leanne. Robert, excellent question. I am very excited about the transit hub. This is a great opportunity. During 2020, I was saying multiple times at different committee meetings and council meetings that we need our own economic developer. We need that someone that's totally focused on the city of Oneonta and promoting the city of Oneonta. We now have our own economic developer. This individual is working in concert with another, and they have invited more than 110 other local or developers, excuse me, within New York State to take a look at our project for the transit hub. By doing this public-private partnership, we take the debt load that could have been $15+ million for a transit hub, and we take the public money and the public opportunity, and we work in concert with a developer. And the developer looks at the ROI and moves that project forward. Very exciting. The transit hub could have more parking than we have right now, incorporating Chestnut Street Extension. That is something that Mark and I have talked about together. And it also opens up Water Street to become more of a green space, more pedestrian friendly, keeps it safer for our community and our young people. And it also gives more business space for retail and commercial growth.
Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to say that I'm more excited about Len, more excited than Len about this space, but I might be, because frankly, I have this vision of what we can do with the Market Street area. We have all of these issues around, and Len's right. We're working with a developer. We've got all of these pieces starting to come into play with folks that are entrepreneurial developers, et cetera. But I think you really need to have a plan that the city, can provide. So what do we want to do? I would like to take Market Street and turn it into an entertainment district, frankly, with the foothills, with Club Odyssey, addressing an 18 to 20 something or other age group. I'd like to have a venue that is supportive of the demographic of 25 to 35, 39. I'd like to have the Stella Lunas turned into a science, into a discovery center, essentially not a discovery center, but a children's museum with a railroad theme, and employ so many of the people that are doing these things now in the partnered construct of something. So in other words, we have a space that takes care of everybody while pushing people up back into Main Street with green energy driven conveyances, whether they are escalators or even a trolley system, bring people back up into Main Street.
Thank you. Bob, I'm sorry, let's go back to Len. You have a follow-up? Go ahead.
Thank you, Leanne, for this opportunity. I think another great example is what Springbrook is doing with CEO Patricia Kennedy and her CFO, Seth. I think they've done a wonderful job about integrating their organization into downtown Oneonta, Robert. They're investing more than $5 million. They're giving an opportunity for 24 middle-income housing, and I think there's 700 square feet for $1,000 a month. The best part about those, I fell in love with a view from the second and the third floor. You actually get to look up the East Valley instead of most of the time we get to look on the west. But I think it's creating those public-private partnerships with Springbrook and other developers, rather than kind of putting us in a pigeonhole of what we expect out of them. I think it's great, or a better opportunity for us to create that opportunity and then talk about what their vision is compared to what our vision is.
Mark, did you want to follow up?
I do. So I'm with you almost all the way through there, Len, until the end. I think it's really, really, really important that we do provide a vision and direction, because there are things that we need to address. If we don't address them, yes, public-private partnerships, I am all for. But the idea of letting the market kind of drive what the content and context of something as important as the back end of Main Street, Market Street, might wind up being, I think, is something that I wouldn't leave to that type of chance. So I think it's very important. I know that there are any number of people who have identified a need, talked about it, and I think the idea of keeping our shopping district on Main Street and having entertainment as being our focus on Market Street is going to make a ton of sense.
Len, did you want to follow up?
I do, because I think the DRI money, and I'm thankful that Robert brought this up, is very important, because I was a county legislator at the time. There was a misconception that the $10 million was just straight money that people would have to or just line up and get it. It was really seed money. And I think it worked out to be more 2 to 1, so 2 private to every $1. I think the DRI still is giving Oneonta an opportunity to be transformational, but we need to be smart about it. How do we be smart about it? We need to go out and get private developers to work with us. There are plenty of parcels down there, and there's more opportunity than most recognize in downtown Oneonta to turn it around from multiple unit housing plus retail and just create that. I don't disagree with Mark. We need to have synergy for the aesthetical look, but our MU1 code, which is new.
Okay. Thank you. No, that was, one more opportunity to, I think, follow up, Mark. I think, yes.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And, you know, Len and I, you know, we're so much on the same page around public-private partnership. We sing from the same songbook. It's really important. But the answer to your question, Bob, is, you know, there are still monies left in DRI, and they are going to be invested in a transit hub that will be a transformational piece on Market Street. My expectation is that that is going to engender a whole lot of entrepreneurial connection to not only Market Street, but Main Street. This is DRI doing what DRI is supposed to do.
Thank you. Okay, let's see, just so many questions here. Let's see. Neola Park is a great community asset. One innovative idea floated in support of downtown revitalization is to shift its main entrance crossing the tracks to between Foothills and the old rail station. How do you see better integrating Neola Park into our downtown? And that starts with Mark.
Yeah, I saw the plans for that kind of midway, just about just this side of Stella Luna's, our potential children's museum. Just this side, the access then with shrubbery on either side that would keep the headlights out of the foothills space, because that's a big deal. You're going to have all that glass there, and you have, you know, in the evenings after the ball game is done, you have headlights coming back and forth, and that's disruptive. So a screen of various trees and shrubs was already kind of spec'd out. It's a really beautiful concept. The issue that it had, as far as I can see, was the fact that we have an active train station, active train line. I'd love to have an active train station. We have an active rail line there. And so performance spaces and so forth that are outside, which are part of that thing, are going to be obviously affected by the train coming through. You know, hold up the Shakespeare, because here comes the train. But outside of that, there is so much value in integrating Neola Park into the downtown experience, making the entire city walkable is and bikeable is the goal. And so, yeah, we will figure it out. Gas Avenue and River Street, those are not the answers. There's a better way.
Lynn?
Sure. So Neola Park is a great public, and it has served us extremely well. But moving into the future, I think we have a few opportunities. Judy Pangman, as our community developer, has applied for a comprehensive study to revitalize the canal, that the mill race that we have. I think this is a great opportunity for us to incorporate the mill race with different shops, or it has a bike trail already, but we can incorporate the mill race. I think Judy's doing a great job. I think we're 2 years away from that as an opportunity, but more importantly, we need to promote Gary Lang's baseball business down there, the Outlaws. He's done a fabulous job of promoting the city of Oneonta with baseball. That is our history, right? We had single A New York Yankees here for a long time. Our mayor, Sam Nader, was one of the driving forces of getting them here and keeping them here. I appreciate that from the Nader family, but we need to promote baseball more. So I know that we're working hard at getting the money secure for the new grandstand for Gary, but we also need to be promoting his baseball team and organization and making more use of the park. Katie Lapari Chu brings up good ideas about art in the space of public space. I look forward to working with the Arts Commission and hearing what they plan to do with all of our parks. So again, I look forward to working with our council and our commissions on beautifying our parks. I also see an economic opportunity.
Thank you. My next question, so it's switching gears a little bit. It's two questions relating that are related as far as taxes. One is, as mayor, how will you keep homeowner property taxes down? And then there's a kind of related or lateral thinking one, that's what can be done about less than 50% of residents paying all of their property taxes? Kind of combination of two property tax questions. And I believe we'll start with Len.
Sorry about that. So the questioner is correct. 47% of us are paying for 100% of everything. So we need to identify new revenue streams. So a few weeks ago, the Finance and Human Resource Committee, we had a meeting that was solely designed for new revenue streams. There was 9 items on that agenda. A couple to highlight is that currently the city of Oneonta owns more than 90 parcels. They're not all parks or public space. They're not all parcels that have infrastructure such as water and sewer in them. So we need to identify them. Is there an opportunity? Again, I go back to the Chestnut Street School property. There's a 2.77 acre right behind the Chestnut Street School that could be utilized for this new development for housing. So that would help us in the more than 400 that are requesting new housing in the city of Oneonta. I also just—
The other part of that question, the other part of the question is not only how to get more people to pay taxes, but then how do we keep property taxes down?
Right, so new revenue streams coming in helps the city government meet its operational needs. So we're doing 2 parts at the same time. We're trying to stabilize our tax base, increase revenues that the government needs to move through its operational costs. I don't think it's about cutting personnel, to be honest with you. I think city staff is at the bare minimum right now.
Thank you, Len. Mark?
Yeah, so first of all, kudos to the Finance Committee for tackling multiple ways to increase revenue by identification of parcels that are unattended. People don't even know they were there, and so lots of creative thinking going on there. But creative thinking is what's going to get us there. So for me, it's about bringing, and I keep saying it, right? Bringing 1,000 people into the community with jobs. And so the point of that is, if you bring in 1,000 people with jobs, first, and some of them nimble businesses, young businesses, you'll have more people paying taxes. You'll have, it's the same size pie, the slices get smaller, the more people that you have taking a piece of the pie. In this particular case, a small piece is what you want. So that is why we are marketing, and we actually have a marketing campaign going on right now. Talked about a few minutes ago, the Niwa Park and the dog park and all of these other quality of life issues. All of these things are our tools to market ourselves to downstate people who have self-identified as people who are not locked to an office cubicle, that we can bring to us with their jobs. That is going to do a ton to bring down our tax rate individually.
Thank you. So, you want to follow up, Len? Okay, one follow-up.
I think one of the other initiatives that was raised that night that we had our meeting, and we've continued since, but the initial meeting was past council member Larry Malone, I believe, wrote a white paper on an opportunity for us to look at a new revenue stream through our formal education institutes, which it was a small amount of money that was added on to the student tuition, but it would make a large impact to the community to have that additional money. Senator Seward brought more than $260,000 to our community for a few years, but that has run dry. So we need to have new revenue streams bringing an opportunity for the government to run its operations, taxes stabilized.
And Mark, did you want to follow up or are you done? Oh, you're muted. You're muted, Mark.
And it was just me saying, no, I know that there's not a lot of time and you have a ton of questions. So I just want to let you get some more questions.
All right, thank you. Bob, did you have a question that you would like to ask? Another one?
Oh, sure. Len mentioned a moment ago the institutions of higher learning in the city, and we know how very important they are, but they also present some quality of life issues for people down in the city. I think that's one of the things we hear the most about here at the newspaper. What can you do to work with the colleges to make the colleges better neighbors, or at least the student bodies better neighbors within the city?
Well, that's a great question. So
and we'll start. I think we actually start with Mark on
I'm
that
sorry.
one.
That's right.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's great.
Nope, that's okay.
But you know, I really appreciate this question. During the pandemic, when we spiked on the SUNY campus, and you know, it was a huge deal, obviously, there was a concern among the merchants downtown for what was being said in communities around Oneonta relative to coming into Oneonta to do any kind of business. Don't go in there because it's not safe. Turns out it was perfectly safe within that context, as we didn't have any community spread and it was fairly well isolated to the campus. However, I was asked to create some sort of a mechanism where we could make some connection to both colleges in benefit of our commercial district. And I came up with the Town Gown Task Force. And the idea of it was to create an expectation of collaboration between students and faculty and staff and community and businesses. And the equation is, if you collaborate, if you work together, you're educating, you're creating an understanding, you'll have empathy, you'll have respect. And with respect, you wind up with a good relationship. The colleges and their students are unbelievably important to us. They need to have that symbiotic relationship with us.
Len?
So I actually had a meeting with Julian yesterday. He's a young man that's a Harper College student graduate. And today I had a meeting with James. He's a very exciting young man from SUNY Oneonta. I think that's the way we do this, Robert. I think what we do is we start having open lines of communication, maybe on a smaller scale. I know that Margaret Drogovich, president of Harper College, during 2020, she was putting a committee together, and Gary had asked me if I would represent the 5th Ward, since the majority of Harper College is in the 5th Ward, and I said yes. I think that's what it's about, is creating more open lines of communication. I know that we have quite a few disturbances in downtown Center City with college kids and the community at large. I think it's just about open lines of communication, having more activities where the community are working with the students on different activities. I know this weekend we have an opportunity to receive rather than give. We're receiving from the students, where there's, I believe, 60 some odd students that are going to be coming down and doing different labor tasks, menial tasks, helping out senior citizens, helping out veterans groups. I know that we've received them in the past. So I think we just need to do more of that, Robert, moving forward.
Mark, you want a follow-up?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I love this extra 45 seconds because I want to let you know one of the things that the Town Gown Task Force can do, and this is so important. We talk about keeping older citizens in their homes, right? And it's, I mean, I'm getting to be one of those. So what you want to be able to do is have some assistance set up institutionally, and there is a desire among students on campus, both campuses, to work to ensure that older people are able to keep their walks maintained during the winter time, even to just call and check in on somebody institutionally as part of the, hey, how are you doing? Part of, you know, a larger kind of workflow for ensuring that our community and our community of students are engaged in a positive way.
Len, did you have a follow-up?
Leanne. At the Oneonta Veterans Club, we have received the benefit of integrating the students into our military organization. They have for years, one of the fraternities has for years helped us out with dinners. Without them, we wouldn't be able to raise money to keep our organization moving forward. So I look at this as a two-pronged attack. I look at it as we're recruiting them. We're trying to say, hey, take a look at Oneonta. As I said to these two young men, the most important thing for me is retention. I'm amazed that we have basically a student population of 6,500 between the two campuses, and we don't even retain 1% between those two organizations. I mean, I met a woman that graduated from Hartwick several years ago, and she stayed in Oneonta only because we reminded her of her home in England. So we've got to do a better job of retention of our students.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna just, I think we've got time for one more question. So let's see, what are your plans and goals? And we're starting, this question starts with Len. What are your plans and goals for supporting and promoting the city of Oneonta as a diverse, welcoming, and inclusive community?
I think we need to do a better job. I met a individual on Main Street a few weeks ago, and he didn't tell me how I should address him, but he was upset. He said that we do not have an opening community. And so we need to do a better job of inviting everyone in our community. It shouldn't matter what your skin color is, your race, your ethnicity, or your beliefs. We should be accepting everyone for who they are. And we got to do a better job of opening our community and providing that opportunity. So my goal would be to have our community relations committee reach out to the community more and find out what the community wants. I think that's a form of government that can get out there and talk with the people even more. And I think that's just an opportunity for us to be more open with our community and listen to what they want. Is it programs? Is it quality of life? What is it that we need to do to make sure that everyone that comes here feels open? We were just talking about the college kids. How are you going to recruit them if you don't make them feel welcome?
Thank you, Len. Mark, do you need me to repeat the question, or have you got it?
No, I think I've got it. I think I've been really blessed in that I have had an experience in business where I have had so many people work for me over the course of those many years, the success of the various enterprises has always been a case of respecting and engaging and making certain that everyone's voice is heard. That's how you solve problems. That's how you move forward. And one of the things that we need to do as a community, we're going to do this across the board. We're going to do this about housing. We're going to do this about everything, is we are going to engage people who have not typically been brought to the table. Male, female, transgender, gay, it doesn't matter, black, white, who cares? Everybody gets a seat at the table. Everybody has an opportunity to be a part of the solution. We are all one community. Now, I mean, I know you can't just, black and white experience, for instance, is different. Gay and straight experience is different. You have to have respect for that fact. But we are all community members and all of our voices matter. Leanne, you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So in the past hour plus minutes, we've discussed a whole range of topics from the Oneonta Police Department review, government transparency, housing for new residents and existing residents, the pandemic effect on closing organizations, management style of the two candidates, issue of conflict of interest with their businesses, working with the town of Oneonta and the county, development of the rail yards, the downtown revitalization, and the Neowa Park integration with downtown property taxes, how the universities can be better neighbors, and then finally how we can promote a more diverse, to be a more diverse and welcoming community to everyone. So what I'm going to do now, I think we're ready for our 90-second closing statement from each candidate, if you wish to do so. So the order of the closing statements is the reverse of the opening. So we'll start with Len first.
Well, thank you, Leanne and Robert and the League of Women Voters for providing this platform tonight. It was enjoyable. I also want to thank Mark. Mark and I, we met early on in the spring of this year, and we both agreed that we would like to run a gentleman's campaign, that there would be no negative campaigning. And I just want to openly thank Mark for honoring that. I also want to say to the voters, by taking a look at both of the candidates tonight, I appreciate you doing that. I think we've dropped a few people. It looks like we're down to 78. We did hold their attention span at 97 for a while, but I do just want to go over that. I believe my life experiences as a veteran, as a service community member to the city of Oneonta through the fire department, and being a small business owner, I believe that small business is the cog of not only our community, but of the United States. And serving currently as the 5th Ward Council member has given me an opportunity to see our community in different aspects. I think it gives me an opportunity to listen to everybody. We're going to get to a brighter future, if you will, if we create opportunities for our seniors to live in their homes longer, and that could be through short-term rentals and other options and codes. I think we need to create a communal business space that allows entrepreneurs the opportunity to move forward along with our farmers market. I think we need to strengthen our local economy through businesses, our small businesses, by working with them and providing tax incentives and abatements that Mayor Miller had brought up several years ago. We need to dust them off. We also need to do public-private partnerships. And then I want to move on to biking, hiking, baseball tourism, but also sports tourism. I was raised when I was out campaigning that we need to do more incorporating of sports tourism.
Thank you very much, Len. And now, Mark, for your closing statement.
So I'm running for mayor because I have a vision for our future. I can see where we are and I can see the route to get from here to there. I know how to succeed will take community engagement and collaboration. It'll take cheerleading, it'll take salesmanship, and it'll take leadership. I can be that leader. I'm known as someone who does more than talk the talk. Over the years, you've all seen me. I walk the walk, I do, and that's what this city needs. Someone who rolls up their sleeves and works with their neighbors to get things done. And we've got a lot to do, but we also have an opportunity now and for the next few years that's greater than any time in our lives to change the trajectory of our city, to make it a jewel that shines so brightly it becomes a beacon and an example of best practices for cities across the country. We are so lucky to live in this place in this time, and I am so grateful to have this opportunity to serve you in this light switch moment. So join me in this campaign for Oneonta's future. It starts with your ballot. Early voting begins October 23rd at the Foothills. You can get the schedule on our website, markformayor.org. Thank you.
And so thank you to candidates Len Carson and Mark Durnick, Media Representative Robert Cairns, my fellow league members working behind the scenes, and to the audiences for making this a valuable, informative, and engaging event. I'm just going to quickly show a slide here. So one second. And if you wish to contact the candidates or the Oneonta League, these are the websites to get their contact information. And if you didn't get a chance to ask your question, this would be a good place to find out how to contact them and ask them the question directly. So I'll stop my share. And again, I would just want to thank you all very much and wish you a good night. Thanks so much. Bye-bye, everybody.